In this video, you will learn how to compute exponentials, that is, a to the nth power, where a is the base and n is the exponent. You will also compute some special case exponentials where the base is 10 or where the base is e. When the exponent is 2, which means you are squaring a value, use the x squared key. So for the first example, we're going to compute 3 squared. So we're going to take 3, and then we'll hit the x squared key, and then we just hit enter to get our value. And you can see that that's 9. Now let's look at a common error. We will compute the opposite of 3 squared. So let's take the opposite of, and then 3 raised to the second power. And let's see what we get. We hit enter, and we get negative 9. Now let's compute negative 3 raised to the second power. So we're going to take negative 3 and put that in parentheses and raise that to the second power. Then hit enter. And that's going to give us a value of 9. Now, what the common error is many students think that this is actually read as negative 3 raised to the second power. And it is incorrect. What this actually means is the opposite of 3 squared. Because what you're squaring is you're actually squaring the 3 only, not the negative sign, but the 3. So this means that you're taking the opposite of 3 times 3, which is equal to negative 9. So if you're to write negative 3 squared, and that's what you actually want, is negative 3 squared, then you need to put the negative 3 inside parentheses and then square it. What that means is negative 3 times negative 3, which is equal to 9. Okay, so just pay attention to that. So what do you think this value would be? If we take the opposite of 2 and square it, are we going to get 4? Or are we going to get negative 4? Well, we should get negative 4 because what we're squaring is just the 2, not the negative sign. So we hit enter and we get negative 4. If we wanted to compute negative 2 squared, then we would need to put negative 2 in parentheses, use the squared key, and that will give us 4. Okay? Now, if you want to raise a value to an exponent other than 2, then you will use the power button right here. Okay, let's go ahead and clear the screen now, and then we will continue with our next example. For the next example, we're going to compute 3 raised to the negative 4th power. So we take 3, raise that to the negative 4th power, and you want to make sure that you don't use the subtraction key to represent the negative exponent. Make sure you use the negative key. Alright, so let's go ahead and hit enter to get our result. Okay, now let's compute 2 raised to the negative 5th power. Now, if the negative 2 is being raised to the 5th power, remember we need to use parentheses. So what we're going to do is open the left parenthesis and then enter negative 2. Then we're going to close the right parenthesis and then raise it to the 5th power. And we go ahead and hit enter and we get negative 32. You can also have the exponent as a fraction. So let's compute 81 to the 1/4 power. So that's going to be 81 raised to Now you need to put the 1/4 in parentheses, so that's 1 divided by 4. Close the parenthesis and then select Enter. And you get 3. Now let's see what happens if we do not use parentheses around the 1/4. So that's 81 raised to the 1 divided by 4. What this means is that 81 is raised to the first power, and then that answer, which is 81, is then divided by 4. And remember that order of operations is holding true here. It's doing the exponents first, and then it's taking that answer and dividing it by 4. So you can see if we hit Enter, we get a completely different answer. We get 20.25. So remember, when you're using fractional exponents, to make sure that you put the fraction in parentheses. So let's say we want to compute -8 to the -1/3 power. So let's take -8 and raise that to the -1/3 power. So we're going to use parentheses and then -1 divided by 3. And we hit Enter to get our value. And we get -0.5. So the main point here is when you're using fractional exponents is to make sure you put that fractional exponent in parentheses, or you won't get the correct answer. There are built-in keys in the calculator that allow you to compute exponentials when the base is 10 or e. So when the base is 10, you're going to use the second function key, and then you're going to hit this button here, because you can see 10 raised to the x power. If you're going to use the key that has a base of e, you're going to use the second function and hit the ln key right here, and you can see that that says e raised to the x power. All right? So let's go ahead and compute 10 raised to the -2nd power. So you hit the second function, then you're going to select the log key, and then that of course is raised to the -2 power, and then now close the parenthesis and select Enter, and we get our value of 0.01 or 1/100th. Okay, let's also try to compute e raised to the 3/5. So we're going to the second function key and then select the ln key, and that's going to be raised to the 3 divided by 5. Close the parenthesis and then select Enter, and our result is shown. Let's go ahead and clear the screen. Now a little trick here, if you just wanted to recall what the value of e is, and remember that e is a constant, we can go ahead and take e raised to the first power. So we're going to go second function, select the ln key, raise that to the first power, close the parenthesis, and select Enter, and this is our value of e. This concludes the basic computations of exponentials.